Hello, I'm Dr. Tara Palmatier of drinkformen.com. If you have a question or would like to schedule a session with me, you can reach me at shrinkformen@gmail.com. The title of this video is Adult Toddlers Part 1, Traits of Emotionally Immature Narcissists and Borderlines. Since beginning Shrink for Men in 2009, I've frequently described narcissists, borderlines, psychopaths, histrionics, and other emotionally immature individuals as children in adult bodies, or emotional toddlers. That's because these individuals think, relate, and behave much younger than their actual physical age. In other words, they exhibit a persistent, lifelong pattern of emotional and psychological immaturity. In this respect, they are arrested at an earlier stage of development. This is one of the reasons they are considered personality disordered. It isn't possible to have a mutually reciprocal adult relationship with a child, nor can you have a functional adult relationship with a child in an adult's body. Individuals with these characterological deficits simply lack the capacity to build stable adult relationships. This is why many of my clients say they feel like more of a parent than a partner to their disordered spouses and exes. Or rather, and let me make this clarification, what they're actually experiencing is they are being a parentified child who is taking care of an adult toddler. Okay, so many codependents, or I should say children of disordered, personality disordered parents, or mentally ill parents, or addicted or alcoholic parents, become parentified. Okay, so it's basically the codependent in their adult relationship resumes the role of the parentified child to their disordered, alcoholic, or mentally ill partner. Okay. Now, your narcissistic or borderline spouse or ex may have a lot of friends, even hundreds of Facebook friends. So what do I mean that they don't have actual adult friendships? Well, if you look at any sustained friendships these individuals have, they're typically comprised of minions, cheerleaders, and flying monkeys, i.e. enablers. They're comprised of people who are their narcissistic supply, i.e. lickspittles, toadies, butt kissers, and sycophants. They're comprised of other bullies of a feather, and then they terrorize the countryside together. I'm thinking in particular of, cool moms at the school who target and harass other parents who aren't part of their clique. I'm sure many of you have encountered those types. Other drama llamas that feed off each other's perpetual chaos emissions. And then there are genuinely good people who are their quote unquote friends, but they're friends with the narcissist or borderline's false self or public persona, not the jerk who abuses you when no one's looking. So to be clear, these people aren't friends. They are useful tools. They will be discarded without hesitation if they ever cease to be useful to the narcissist or borderline. And that's what you are to a narcissistic partner, a useful tool. Until you're not. Then you will be devalued, discarded, and replaced. If you're the adult child of a narcissist or borderline mom or dad, as I said a moment ago, you were probably parentified as a child. The kids of personality disordered parents have to grow up fast. Disordered parents rob their children of their childhood. Why? Because the narcissistic or borderline parent is, psychologically speaking, a child. As such, they're incapable of putting anyone else first. And this includes their children who are actually children. When you're a parentified child, mommy or daddy needs you to take care of them. Or you end up having to raise yourself because mommy and daddy are incapable of doing so. In which case, you probably developed some codependent caretaker traits and have chosen adult partners who are just as emotionally and psychologically underdeveloped as your parents. In other words, your model for adult relationships was anything but adult. You were conditioned to believe that love is doing and doing for others, sacrifice, martyrdom, and pain. Unlike actual children with good enough parents, narcissists and psychopaths don't ever grow up. And if you don't know what I mean by good enough parent, it's a concept developed by object relationist or relations theorist D.W. Winnicott, which is that a parent doesn't have to be perfect. What's important is that they meet a child's needs, emotional needs and maturational needs often enough so that the child is able to internalize that sense of emotional security, love, and well-being. Okay, so you don't have to be a perfect parent. You just got to be a good enough parent. Look, these people aren't ever going to have an epiphany and change their ways. They will take and take and take until you've nothing left to give. They'll exploit and abuse you until they break you. Then they become angry and blame you for being broken, just like a toddler who breaks their toy by playing roughly with it. If you're married to, dating, or have a parent with these issues, there are probably times when it feels like you're dealing with a 3-year-old in a 53-year-old's body. Odds are that's exactly what you're experiencing. Ever try to reason with a 3-year-old? Or how about a really, really snarky, insolent 12-year-old? Good luck with that. Now I want to discuss the traits of adult toddlers, or the chronically emotionally immature narcissist and borderline. The reason it feels like you're dealing with a toddler, if your spouse, boyfriend or girlfriend, parent, sibling, ex, etc., is disordered or has an abundance of personality disorder traits is, I repeat, because they are frozen in a state of arrested emotional, psychological, and moral development. The following are traits that narcissists et al. Share with actual toddlers, that is, children between the ages of 2 and 4 years old. 1, tantrums. They throw adult tantrums. Tantrums are multi-purpose. Narcissists and borderlines throw a tantrum to get their way. Think Veruca Salt in the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Daddy, I want an Oompa Loompa now. They throw tantrums when they want attention or when they're bored. They throw tantrums because they're enamored with the sound of their own caterwauling. They throw tantrums for the amusement of seeing you scurry, scamper, and wince. And they throw tantrums to keep their nearest and dearest on their toes, i.e., to keep you emotionally engaged. Because if you are engaged, even if it's in anger and hostility and drama and chaos, they're still in control. If for whatever reason you're determined to stay with your narcissist or borderline, stop rewarding their tantrums. Ignore them when they behave like that. Leave the house. Hang up the phone. Most iPhones come equipped with the big red dot, or you can just turn off your phone, again, with that big red dot. Anticipate that they will escalate the acting out behaviors and continue to ignore them. Unless you have a narcissistic or borderline girlfriend or wife, in which case, men, be concerned if she threatens to make a 911 call accusing you of domestic violence. That is when they truly feel they're losing control. They will try to regain control by using law enforcement as a proxy abuse mechanism, okay? Or if she or he becomes violent, then you got to get away from them. Men in particular, once she becomes violent, It's not a question of if the police are going to become involved. It's just a question of when, okay? 2, unreasonable and incessant need for attention. Being in a relationship with a narcissist or borderline eventually feels like breastfeeding a colicky, angry baby crocodile with a tapeworm. They never seem to tire of feeding. Their appetite for attention is insatiable. I lived with a man who would likely qualify for a diagnosis of NPD for approximately 7 years. The empathy well ran dry around year 4. I should have realized the end was nigh when he made one of his emotional distress signals, which was a heavy sigh accompanied by brow furrowing and then holding his forehead in his hands as if in mortal agony. And I inwardly rolled my eyes. By that time, I'd ceased to jump in response to his nonstop attention seeking. His laundry needed washing and his meals needed cooking too, not to mention the work I'm actually paid to do. There are only 24 hours in a day after all. After I didn't immediately stop what I was doing to inquire what or who was vexing him in that moment, he followed up with the nonverbal distress, he followed up his nonverbal distress signals with, "I'm feeling really anxious." Translation, stop what you're doing, assume the position, and listen to me. My internal editor must have been on a coffee break because I reflexively asked, "What is it now?" Whoops and kaboom. That was quite the fun afternoon. I had nothing left to give. He'd consumed it all. I later discovered he was already actively grooming my replacement when that occurred. It's the narcissist's equivalent of double dipping their potato chips. It's not attention seeking. It's attention gluttony. Think of Templeton the rat in Charlotte's Web at the fair, gorging himself on the refuse of popcorn and half-eaten corn dogs until his stomach pops. 3, poorly developed problem-solving skills. If you've been in a relationship with one of these individuals, you probably think of yourself as conflict avoidant. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. It's more likely that you avoid conflict because of how your partner or ex does conflict. Emotional toddlers don't create conflict to resolve actual issues, okay? They create conflict to distract from the real relationship issues, which are their destructive behaviors. They're not interested in doing what's right. They just want to be right, especially when they're objectively wrong. If they can get you to apologize for whatever rotten thing they did to you, they have a narcgasm. It's pleasurable to them to have conflict, to provoke you into an emotional response, and then they turn the tables and victim play. That's the goal. That's fun. That's the sweet spot. That's their jam. They bully, bulldoze, talk over you, pout, threaten, kitchen sink, derail the conversation, and or bring up old conflicts. Whatever it takes to get you to submit, comply, apologize, and beg for their forgiveness. They're not interested in compromise or finding win-win solutions, which is how mature adults resolve conflict. Winning means getting what they want, and you absorb the cost, be it monetary, emotional, or physical. They have to have all the cookies, a much bigger cookie, or at the very least, 3 more chocolate chips in their cookie than you, just like little kids. Your suffering is what makes them happy, but not for long. They want what they want whenever and wherever they want it, and you'd better deliver. The volcano god or goddess requires regular human sacrifices. So it's not like you can just humor them once or twice. That will become an endless pattern in your relationship. 4, need-based love. A child's love for their parents is based on need. That's natural. That's healthy. It's supposed to be, okay? Infants can't take care of themselves and rely on their parents completely. Children and children in adult bodies don't have the capacity for mature love based on mutuality and reciprocity. The narcissist doesn't love you. The narcissist loves you for what you can do for them. You're a source of supply, attention, social status, butt kissing, physical labor, money, etc. During the love bombing stage, you're the most amazing person ever. Once they begin to devalue you, if you're still giving them everything they want and are shielding them from life's everyday frustrations, you may get some moments of respite, but you're still going to be tap dancing on eggshells. I had this experience a few weeks back. I was on a plane, and my original flight was canceled, and I had to get on another one. So I was stuck with the seat I got, which was the center seat in coach, which is not the worst thing in the world, but not where I prefer to sit. And I was stuck between one gentleman who unfortunately was breaking wind for the entire flight. And so I turned my head in the direction of the other passenger, another gentleman seated next to me who was on his cell phone the entire 5-hour flight, sex texting his new girlfriend with his 2 teenage children seated across the aisle from him. And so it was breathe in the toxic fumes or head in this direction. And I also have pretty good peripheral vision, and it was hard not to see what he was horn dog texting. And I know it was a new relationship because one of the messages from this woman was, you're the most amazing man. I can't believe we've known each other for only 2 weeks. If that coach seated had an eject button, I would have hit it and suffered the consequences in the stratosphere. It was some pretty intense love bombing, and it was horrible. Anyway, back to my point. Narcissists and borderlines need targets and enablers. In other words, they need scapegoats and people to clean up their messes. They can't successfully narcissist or borderline without them. But abusers don't love their enablers or targets, nor do they feel gratitude for all the garbage you tolerate. When they're not in a state of emotional or physical need, they prefer you leave them alone. Or rather, look at them adoringly while they ignore you and do their own thing. For example, attention seeking with their Facebook minions. Just like kids, they want mom and dad to watch them doing handstands in the swimming pool, for example. They don't want their parent to participate in the aquatic play. They just want mom and dad to be their audience. And when do they most want mom and dad to be their audience? When mom and dad are busy doing adult things. Like mom gets a phone call. It's someone from work. And all of a sudden, that's when the little kid wants mom to come play Legos. Many narcissists and borderlines do the same thing. They can't be bothered with you until they see your attention is going elsewhere. Then all of a sudden, they desperately need your attention. Okay, 5. Poopy diaper face. It's a term I came up with. You may not find that anywhere else. Poopy diaper face is the look of emotional constipation the narcissist or borderline gets just before they get their tantrum on. I remember it well. Sometimes it's a more subtle, slow simmering pout. Other times it's scary and potentially dangerous, like when they turn on the death stare or the shark eyes. In other words, it's the nonverbal signal that your emotional toddler is building up to one of their episodes. Why do they do this? Much like actual infants and toddlers, these individuals lack the ability to self-soothe, amuse themselves, reality test, and problem solve. And that's why they're looking for scapegoats and enablers. When they feel any kind of emotional or physical discomfort, their reflexive behavior is to alert the nearby grown-ups to come and tend to them. Or if they can't get your attention fast enough, they will then self-soothe via self-destructive and destructive to others behaviors. For example, alcohol and drug abuse, overeating, overspending, cheating, raging at you to provoke an angry response, lying, which gives them the pleasurable sensation of duping delight. You know the drill if you've had a relationship with someone like this. To conclude, self-care is the responsibility of every adult. Caring for oneself is your responsibility. It's my responsibility to care for myself. It's your responsibility to care for yourself. It is a duty to ourselves and others. When children are small and helpless, it's a parent's job to protect and care for them. It's also a parent's job to teach children how to assume increasing personal responsibility and self-care as it becomes developmentally appropriate. It's not your job to parent your narcissist or borderline spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend. If you believe it's your responsibility, ask yourself why. Why do you believe it's your responsibility? Where did you learn this? Why are you taking this on? The answer isn't because you love her or because you love him, okay? You're likely doing so in a misguided attempt to get them to need you like a child needs their parents, or like a narcissist or borderline needs their parentified child. And that is codependency. It is not love. Do you really want to spend the rest of your life tending to an emotional toddler who refuses to grow up? Do you want to be a parent or a partner? If you want a relationship of equals, it's time to launch your emotional toddler. That doesn't mean creating boundaries with an expectation that this person is actually going to grow and mature, because that's unlikely to ever happen. You launch them because you accept that she or he is not your responsibility and never was your responsibility. They'll survive just as they always have without you, so don't exaggerate your importance to them. The world is chock full of other willing enablers. You launch them because it's time for you to start taking care of you. Again, I'm Dr. Tara Palmatier of shrinkformen.com. If you have a question or would like to schedule a session with me, you can reach me at shrinkformen@gmail.com. Thank you for watching and have a good day.